Okay, why don't I tell you all the reasons not to turbocharge your Slant 6 car of any sort, whether an old Duster, but yeah, a lot of people say all the pros, but let's go through some negatives. So, first off, you're adding a huge amount of complexity to your engine. I mean, not just with mounting the turbo, but you've got to get that air into it. Where are you going to get the air from? I mean, I had to remove battery from the front of the car, put it in the trunk to do this. Plus, fuel system, are you going to do a blow through? This, I did an EFI, so I had to do high pressure fuel, which means need a fuel pressure regulator, which is, this is the return off the fuel. Here's a vacuum line to actually control that regulator. Then you'd actually have a return coming back. So yeah, this just gets complex. Let's look at crankcase ventilation. So your standard system isn't gonna, it should be shutting off any pull from the crankcase once you're under boost. So how do you get the crankcase stuff out? Well, you need to also add tube to front of turbo to try to pull that under boost pressure, because you're still sucking into the turbo. Now, I've seen a lot of different comments and videos, so let's go with the videos first. Most of the time when you're looking online at Turbo Slant 6 cars, you see it not complete, not a running car. Just realized the irony of that right now, but anyway, but look through that person's channel. Did they ever drive it? How long do you think they actually drove it? Most of these end up resulting in failure. Now, this particular case, I think my failure is just because a engine with 100,000 miles on it. But I think a lot of the others are, especially timing on these. And I jump into that. So most guys are going to run a stock distributor, and then they lock off the mechanical advance, and then getting rid of the a lot of them are getting rid of their vacuum advance on it. Now, I just went to the extreme. That one's a cam sensor, so old distributor modified to be cam. I have a crank trigger, and I run a set of coils. So in this case, I can run the timing wherever this engine needs. And because of it being such an odd, and actually I would just say kind of a crappy design, because the 225 Slant 6 is an afterthought. To be cheap, they just added an inch to the block, inch to the stroke, and made a larger displacement engine. And yeah, it makes for some very interesting timing. So this is one engine I found that lower RPMs, you do retard the timing more to actually get a reasonable amount of power out of it. And the timing range, a lot of the guys like in the forums are saying they're locking in their distributor like 15 to 18 degrees. Because I run knock sensors, which also the forums will tell you can't do because of mechanical cam, which is ridiculous. I obviously don't know how they work. So let's just go right to the timing. 15 to 18 degrees is well into the knock range by a long shot. And probably because you got loud exhaust on it, you can't hear it pinging, but the computer can. Like this here, I actually had a light set up to my knock sensors, and they would pretty much never light because it would pull the timing faster, and I could even recognize an LED light coming on. So don't sit there and try to say you know what knock sounds like and you've adjusted properly when there's no way to hear it well enough. So yeah, and this is also because this head isn't designed for this engine. Well, it's designed for the 170 Slant 6, not designed for the 225. It doesn't flow worth a crap. I get about 5,200 RPM max, and it just can't push any more through the head, which is great. I don't need to set the electronic limiter. It's already mechanically limited. But yeah, you'll never get that much out of one of these engines. They're not made to be doing this. Now, you're probably sitting there wondering why I bother, and it's the engine that goes in that car. That's what it came with. So I'm looking at it more as a technical challenge. But bear in mind, one of the other reasons not to is I need, anytime you take long trips, it's nice to have a manual with you. But I also need this. All the different spec sheets for different things in here. Plus, this gives you part numbers. This allows you to go to a parts store and maybe find a replacement part if something fails. Like knowing that the idle controller on this Holley throttle body, that is for a Dodge Viper. Throttle position sensor, I don't recall exactly what that is at the moment. Map sensor, that's an old school GM map sensor. LS truck coils, you need to know what every part you put on here actually is and what its availability is. So you're basically making your car a lot more difficult to fix on the road. You put the carburetor on there, just standard exhaust, not too hard to fix on the side of the road and get going again. But let's just look at the added complexity. So oil feed, well, it means we need an oil return off the turbo. I got a coolant feed coming off heater hose, well, it means I need a coolant return. You got wastegate. How are you going to plumb that? You need a feed off the turbo. I have a computer control to actually regulate on this side, and then that's straight into the turbo outlet. So, I personally enjoy the technical challenge of this and tuning it. This is kind of my own little data lab. I go right into, I have thermocouples on every port most of the time. There's a lot of sensors. You gotta have multiple, you gotta have your coolant temperature, oil pressure. You should have oil pressure, don't have to. Your map sensors. Yeah, there's something to be said about keeping it simple. And this is anything but. But it looks good. All right, well, I'll probably try to do some specific videos on different aspects. So today I was actually working on turbo coolant. That's where the engine kind of got halfway assembled. So might let you know what I figure out there and give you some other pointers on your Slant 6. But overall, I think the easiest way to sum it up is if you think you're going to turbocharge a Slant 6 on the cheap, you're going to fail. And if you're willing to put the money in, to good controllers, stuff like that, yeah, she'll probably work okay. Like I was talking with the timing stuff, well, you look in the forums about guys that are, doing HEI conversion and try to set their base timing, then you'll find elsewhere where they're complaining about replacing the engine once a year. So there's a correlation there. So that's where I spent more on the engine computer, and I think I've spent a lot less on actual core engines. All right, well, that's enough of a rant for today. So, plus, for those of you who've been watching the channel, it's kind of a nice view of my setup outside the car. And yeah, guess I can walk you through the vacuum lines here. Map sensor, fuel pressure regulator, your brake booster is this nice big one here. Then this is actually to your blow-off valve or recirculation valve, whatever you're running. And then it's teed there to go to the heater system, being air conditioned. So Yeah, this is anything but a KISS engine. There is nothing simple about it. And, well, thanks for watching. Got any questions, comment, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And we'll talk to you guys later.